I've been working with several clients trying to build customer facing agents, and even though there are many frameworks that help you build, like langflow and botpress, but building these agents is extremely hard. It's very iterative, it's very error prone, and so on one side there are these flowchart based builders, and other side there's graph based builders like langgraph. And the issue is that real conversations rarely fit into perfect flowcharts or templates, and so as soon as your bot faces the real user customer, there are many points where it can break, and then you have to go back and fix one or more flows and come back and retry. And it's very hard to see all of these errors upfront when you're designing. So there's a constant tug of war between the language model underneath the agent and the human designer. Okay, so if you give too much control to the LLM, then it can say things that you don't want to, and then you try to take it back, and if you try to take back too much of control, then you end up designing step-by-step flows, and that becomes very painful, and there's a lot of technical debt that finally you are in control, not the language model. So there's a sweet spot that needs to be found in agent in conversational agent design, and the library called Parlant, I think, has found the right balance in terms of where to let the human lead versus where to let the language model lead. And so Parlant has very unique approach to building agent. So I'm just doing a quick overview of what the key principles are that Parlant uses. The first main idea is that you don't model every conversation or every flow end to end. You don't even model one flow completely. You just start off with scenarios. So the key idea that Parlant uses is that of guidelines. So the user specify guidelines are essentially event action pairs. So when X happens, do Y. Okay, so user thinks of few scenarios, and for each of those specifies what is the X, and when X happens, what Y happens, how you respond, how the bot responds. Okay, so you don't try to figure out the whole flow here. Of course, it's good to have sketch of a few flows in the beginning, but what you do is you specify a bunch of these guidelines, and then you go and simulate the bot, and bot can respond. So for situations for which you have provided guideline, the bot responds properly, and for other cases it just goes into error, and it's obvious that it doesn't know those situations. So this kind of iterative flow of incremental design is very useful. It's very it puts less burden, and the user can think of other erroneous cases on the fly and add them during the bot design. The other thing is about tools. The tools, if you supply a set of tools to LLM, it can call them at wrong points, it can call them with wrong parameters, and that destroys the rest of the flow. So tools in this case in Parlant framework are attached to guidelines. So only when a particular scenario occurs, then a specific tool is called with specific parameters. So that restricts the behavior of language models quite a lot, without the user, but not too much, because user can specify the guidelines. The other issue with language models is that they can say things, they can say unwanted things, they can imagine things, and they can say the right thing in the wrong way. So so how do you prevent the bot from uttering whatever it wants to, or at the wrong point? So so in this case, the idea that Parlant uses is that of controlled utterances. So it asks the user to specify what the bot should use, the format. Okay, and it doesn't just pick one of those. It lets the LLM design the response, or come up with the response, and after the response it tries to match the closest utterance, user provided utterance. That way the LLM gets the freedom to design its own response, but what the user sees is the mapping of that internal response to the control utterance. That's a very nice trick and feature tool which allows a nice balance between the user's intent, or what the user wants to say, and LLM's freedom. Right. So with all of these flexibility in design, there has to be a catch, right? So the different kind of challenge here, essentially, it's about these guidelines. So as you go about thinking of different scenarios, you keep adding guidelines, and the set of guidelines can get unwieldy. Some of the guidelines can conflict. Some of the guidelines more than one guidelines can be activated in a particular scenario. So how do you handle it? So one way Parlant allows you to handle is by providing priority. The user can set priority among guidelines, and so the framework picks the right one according to the situation, or it assists the framework in picking them. So guideline conflicts is a complicated issue, and essentially a lot of iteration happens in that region. Okay, so taking a step back, what Parlant, the principle of the architecture of Parlant, essentially is about REPL, REPL design. It's an interactive form of conversational design, where you don't upfront come up with the whole flow or set of flows. You decide upon a particular scenario what needs to be done. You guide the bot, you provide a guideline, you can immediately deploy and interact with it and see if everything's going fine. You can also compare with the previous guideline that you provided, and then for scenarios that are not being handled, or being handled wrong manner, you can go back and refine. So that's the point where you get to think carefully and resolve the conflicts, or think about or structure the new set of behaviors. So that's a very cool feature about Parlant. I think it's the first framework that I know of that allows seamless REPL design of conversation. So that's it. And if you've used Parlant, I'd love to know what other advantages you see, or what other issues you're running into. So feel free to leave a comment here.